One of the sloppiest, messiest main events we've seen this year, with Reiner already beating Robert Whittaker. I thought the decision went to the right guy in the main event of UFC Abu Dhabi, and I thought the card overall was pretty good for a fight night. Ended up going 6-12 on picks, which is one of my worst pick rates, I think, this year. But overall, it was a decent card. I know there's some controversy in the main event, which we'll get onto, but we'll go through each fight, break them all down, share my opinion. Starting off with Martin Buday versus Marcus Bucheca. We just can't really have good things in the heavyweight division. Martin Buday counters everything for Marcus Bucheca with the wrestling, gets the job done by essentially just rolling about on the floor. Bucheca couldn't really get going. Buday gets a decision win because Bucheca had completely gassed out and had nothing to offer on the feet. It was peak heavyweight. I forgot how much I hated the heavyweight division. I had some sort of hope with Bucheca. You know, he was undefeated in MMA, or he wasn't undefeated, but he was like 5-1 in MMA, came from this big BJJ background, fairly athletic, and he comes over and gasses out and loses to Martin Buday, which is supposed to be a fairly easy entry level to the UFC. And you know what shocks me about this? I know we talk about this all the time when we mention heavyweight MMA. These guys are world-class athletes. Marcus Bucheca is a world-class athlete in BJJ. Martin Buday is a top 13 heavyweight in the UFC, the highest level of mixed martial arts, and they've got DJ Khaled level of stamina. I don't understand how you can be this far into your athletic career and be that, like, they were both completely gassed after the first round, and it wasn't even like they had any intensity going. Marcus Bucheca would shoot a takedown, take the back of Martin Buday. Buday would get back up and kind of reverse position, then maybe land a couple of shots on the feet, and that was the entire fight. Classic Martin Buday performance, roll around into victory. I don't think Martin Buday, apart from losing, has ever had a single highlight reel in the UFC. And for Marcus Bucheca, I mean, he's going to be one of these guys that stays unranked in the heavyweight division. If you're performing like that against Martin Buday in your UFC debut, I don't care how athletic you are, go and fight Ryan Spann, go and fight, you know, Chris Barnett, Hamadi Abdel Wahab, go and fight one of the other fight heavyweights to prove your worth in the UFC. That BJJ wasn't even on display. Complete fraud coming over to the UFC, which seems to be of a consistent basis in 2025. Peak heavyweight MMA. Marcus Bucheca spoils any hype he had coming into this, and Martin Buday gets another win and is probably going to get somebody in the top 10 next, which is going to be concerning. Terrible way to kick off the card, to be honest. And again, drowned everybody's parlays. Then we had, after this, we had Muhammad Yahya versus Steve. I think it's called Nguyen. I thought it was Steve Nguyen, but Steve Nguyen. This is one of the craziest fights I've ever seen, with Steve Nguyen winning a TKO in the second round after he dropped Muhammad Yahya. I think it was a total of like 8 different times throughout the entire fight. This was mental. He dropped him like 8 different times. I don't know what what's his name? Jason Herzog was thinking by not stopping it after a couple of those knockdowns, but he took an absolute beating, did Muhammad Yahya. 8 knockdowns in a single fight. I think it was 7 on record, but it should have been 8, which is a record for the UFC. 7 of them from Steve Nguyen, and Herzog doesn't even stop the fight. I think there was like 5 or 6 in the very first round. 5 or 6 knockdowns against Muhammad Yahya. Herzog doesn't stop the fight, and the even crazier part is that the judges didn't even give this a 10-7. How can this not be a 10-7? There has never been a more 10-7 round than getting dropped 5 times in a single round. You have to literally kill your opponent to get a 10-7. You know what I mean? 10-8, obviously that's a given, but that should have been a 10-7. You get knocked down 5 times in a single fight, nearly get finished on 4 different occasions, and that's not a 10-7. This again just ruined. This shows the, you know, what's the word, like the instability of the judges in MMA. But Steve Nguyen absolutely destroyed Muhammad Yahya. I said this coming into the fight. Muhammad Yahya isn't UFC worthy. They only got him on the roster because he represents the UAE, and they don't really tend to have any fighters in the UFC. And that was one of the worst beatings we've ever seen. His eye was all bloated up. It reminded me of Joanna Jędrzejczyk with a forehead, but that might have even been worse with what happened to Muhammad Yahya's eye. One of the worst beatings I've ever seen. And when he actually dropped Steve Nguyen in that, I think it was the second round, I was shocked, because if he would have got that finish over Steve Nguyen then, that might have been the biggest comeback in UFC history. To escape, you know, nearly getting finished on 5 different occasions. If Marc Goddard was in there, that wouldn't have made it past the third knockdown, by the way. But to nearly get finished so many times in that first round and then come back and drop Steve Nguyen, that was crazy for Muhammad Yahya. But yeah, this is a crazy-ass fight. 8 knockdowns in a single fight, which didn't even make it past the second round, is mental. Fair play to Steve Nguyen. I do think he could have capitalized a lot more, though. Like, he dropped Muhammad Yahya, and then he'd barely go for the ground and pound finish. He'd kind of just go for half-assed ground and pound. And Muhammad Yahya obviously isn't the highest level fighter out there. Like I said, I think he's one of the worst fighters on the roster. But either way, crazy record for the UFC. 8 knockdowns in a single fight. If I was Steve Nguyen, I'd be pissed, man. You'd knock a dude down 4 or 5 times and Herzog doesn't stop the fight, but then you'd have Talish and Teixeira, who gets dropped against Derek Lewis, and he's like, yeah, he's had enough. But yeah, inconsistently with the referee, and don't see how that wasn't a 10-7 in the first round. But either way, Mohammad Yahya got destroyed. I don't know if they're going to give him any treatment. I think the UFC will take care of him, but I reckon he'll get cut from the roster. Good for Steve Nguyen. Might even get a bonus from that because he absolutely went out there and mollywhopped him. So good for Steve Nguyen. Then we had Aslan versus Billy Elekana. One of the more disappointing fights on the card, where it was essentially just a staring contest for 15 minutes straight. I thought in the first 30 seconds they're going to be filling each other out. Little did I know that was going to be the story of the entire fight, where Billy Elekana gets the UFC win over Aslan. Aslan acts shocked. I don't know how you can act shocked after that. I feel like some fighters, do they just go deaf, or are they locked in that they can't hear the boos in the crowd? Because how are you going to act shocked that you didn't win a decision when you didn't even perform in any impressive way? But either way, awful fight. Cut both of them from the UFC. There was more words exchanged in this. But it's been pointed out on commentary as well. They kept talking to each other throughout the fight and smiling about each other. And yeah, I agree with Bisping. If you're going to talk to each other in a fight, at least put on an actual scrap. Don't stare at each other and have a light spar. I've seen Kevin Lee take more damages in spars than I saw in this fight. Super disappointing from both men, especially Aslan. I had a lot of hype around this guy. I called him the light heavyweight Sergey Pavlovich, and to be fair, he kind of still is the Sergey Pavlovich, because after Pavlovich's last fight, he was hesitant too, but super disappointing from both men. And yeah, Aslan just looks so hesitant. You look at him running up to the UFC, you look at him in the fight with Rafael Sakara, just charging forward, and then now that he's taking a loss to Kutalaba, he's so hesitant. And Billy Elekana wasn't really, I think Billy Elekana was the better fighter, which is why he won. He did look a lot better with the striking exchanges, but neither of them pushed it. It felt like we were waiting for one of them to put in a bit of a pressure, and neither of them did. They both just kind of stayed on the outside, didn't want to take risks. Billy Elekana gets the job done, but overall, weak fight, probably the worst fight on the card. And yeah, just there's not really much I can talk about with this fight. Awful fight, cut them both, and yeah, just stunk up the prelims. And then we had Amanda Ribas versus Tabatha Ricci. Women MMA finishes, again with Tabatha Ricci. She absolutely destroys Amanda Ribas with the elbows. Elbows are right in the cranium and drops her, goes for the ground and pound finish, and he's again back in the winning column by TKO. I expected Tabatha Ricci to win this fight because Amanda Ribas, unless she's facing somebody in like a pretty striking matchup in like a Taekwondo type fight, she doesn't win. She cannot grapple to... I mean, to be fair, she tripped Tabatha Ricci early on, but her grappling's really poor. Her BJJ's really poor. She doesn't really do well in scraps. Amanda Ribas is kind of built for point fighting, not for MMA, and this is why she got destroyed by Tabatha Ricci. Ricci kind of neutralized Ribas against the cage for most of the fight. Wasn't really doing too much with it. Couldn't really land any takedowns, but kind of just got her against the cage and absolutely blasted her with elbows. And then Amanda Ribas is like, fuck this, I'm done, covers up, and Tabatha Ricci gets the TKO. Great win for Tabatha Ricci. I've said this in the prediction video as well. Tabatha Ricci is going to, I think, one of these fighters that stays in like the top 7 range of the division, in the strawweight division, because obviously she lost to Yang Xiaonan in her last fight. She's lost before, but most of the time she's pretty on point. She kind of does this weird thing where she blitzes in with like blitzes in with boxing, but she'll keep her head down, which I don't like. And her striking kind of is a bit more scrappy, but she has got legitimate wrestling, and obviously just found the elbow against Amanda Ribas, got the finish out there. I can't believe Amanda Ribas as well headlined an event this year. That kind of sums up 2025 in MMA, that Amanda Ribas, who's now on a 3-fight losing streak with 2 finishes, headlined a fight night, or just an event in general in the UFC in 2025. I find that mental, but good win for Tabatha Ricci, gets the win over Amanda Ribas, and yeah, not looking good for Ribas. Then we had Davey Grant. Davey Grant, he might be one of our favourite fighters on the roster, you know. Fights once a year, comes for a paycheck, 39 years old, always got a smile on his face, and he beats Damon Blackshear, one of the better up-and-comers in the bantamweight division, by decision. He just comes to scrap every time, does Davey Grant, and I love it about him. He might be one of the best veterans, or unks, I guess you could say, in the UFC. You know, just goes out there and starts swinging on Damon Blackshear, swinging for the fences, kept the fight standing, and gets the decision win. And that's an average Davey Grant performance. Give him the best prospect in this division, and he'll find a way to win. And if he doesn't, he'll get robbed. And that is kind of the story of Davey Grant. I said this in the prediction video. You look at his record and stuff. His only 2 losses recently have come to Daniel Marcos, which was a brutal robbery, and I think the other one was Adrian Yanez, which that was when Adrian Yanez was like a hot prospect, and even that was arguably a win to Davey Grant. Apart from that, the guy's just going out there and blasting people, takes on Damon Blackshear, this young, hungry grappler, blasts him too. And I think pound for pound, he might be the best veteran in the UFC. Definitely one of the most underrated fighters on the roster. He's 39 years old, fights once a year, goes out there against against the best unranked fighters and smokes him. He might actually be the best unranked guy in the bantamweight division right now. He just comes to throw down every single time, and barely any people can hang in there with him on the feet. When I say hang him in, though, I mean like compete with him. Great takedown defense as well, and just a great win for David Grant. Honestly, maybe this is too big of a shout, but I wouldn't mind seeing him get somebody in the top 15. You know, he's on, I think, a 2-fight winning streak now. He's winning on a consistent basis. The last time he really got dominated, I mean, when was the last time he got dominated? I think the last time he took a bad loss was to Marlon Vera back in like 2020, and that was by decision. So I'd say David Grant. I wouldn't be mad if you give him someone in the top 15. And for Damon Blackshear, I mean, that's what you get for not shaking the hand of dangerous David Grant in the weigh-ins, mate. You take a loss and you get humiliated in front of him. He looked good in the first round in Damon Blackshear. He was winning the grappling exchanges, took the back of David Grant, and it kind of just looked like shit for the rest of the fight. He was getting outclassed on the feet, was always on the back foot, was shooting takedowns occasionally, but wasn't getting them. So, good win for dangerous great David Grant. Honestly, one of the better British fighters in the UFC right now. I never thought I'd say this, but I wouldn't be mad if you get someone in the top 15. Average David Grant performance. Then we had Muslim fucking Salikhov. I talk about Unks taking over in 2025. Muslim Salikhov might be one of my favorites in the UFC as he knocks out Carlos Leal in the very first round. I thought it was going to be hard to top that spinning wheel kick that he had last year against Song Kenan, and maybe this one didn't top it, but the guy goes out there and absolutely chins Carlos Leal. Leal's walking forward, no care in the world, hands down, thinks he's Mauricio Hoofy with the way that his hands are down, and then he just gets clocked and knocked out. Walk-off KO for Muslim Salikhov. That's 2 solid KOs in a row now, a 3-fight winning streak, and Muslim Salikhov might be one of my favorites in the welterweight division. Called out Wonderboy. I said I'd match him up against Kevin Holland, but I honestly don't mind if you give him Wonderboy, if you give him Holland, give me either of those guys. I'm not bothered because that was a sick performance from Muslim Salikhov. Just slunks him. The Youngs are on board tonight, and the 2025 is the year of the Youngs. Just slumps Leal in the first round, and bearing in mind, Leal had a lot of hype as well. You know, he should have beaten Rinat Fakhretdinov. He destroyed Alex Morona, who was a favorite coming into this fight, and he goes out there and slumps him. I think it was 40 seconds, and he just slumps Carlos Leal on his arse. Great win for Muslim Salikhov as well. Just shot down a dangerous prospect. 2 KOs in a row. Spinning wheel kick and then a knockout over Carlos Leal. It's going to be something big next. I think he called out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That scares me as a Stephen Thompson fan, and I think you've got to make that fight. You know, King of Kung Fu versus one of the better karate fighters in the UFC. A guy coming off a few wins versus a guy coming off a few losses. I say you do Muslim Salikhov versus Stephen Thompson. And hell, if Salikhov can win that one, give him someone in the top 15. And you know what? That probably could be on the Abu Dhabi card as well. The Aspinall versus Garn card. Get Muslim Salikhov versus Stephen Thompson on there. But either way, Muslim Salikhov, I think he might be the best old fighter. I know I just said this about David Grant, but him and David Grant might be the best old fighters in the UFC. What is he, 41 years old, and he's starching people like that? He should be fighting the likes of John Jones, not Stipe. But yeah, good win for Muslim Salikhov. I say you chuck a 50k on him for that because, you know, 2 KOs in a row, 41 years old, slumps Carlos Leal. Massive win for Salikhov. And yeah, the guy called out Thompson, make that fight, and one of the better, if not the best KO on the card to Muslim Salikhov. Then we had Bryce Mitchell versus Said Nurmagomedov, and Bryce Mitchell doing Bryce Mitchell things as he, just completely neutralizes Said Nurmagomedov, out-wrestles him the entire fight, an All-American mauls a Dagestani, and gets the job done in his bantamweight debut, and he looks pretty suited to the bantamweight division. I was worried that maybe Bryce Mitchell weren't going to be built for this division, but he is. He doesn't look any, his chin doesn't look any worse, he doesn't look any, but just overall worse in the bantamweight division. He gets the job done over Said Nurmagomedov, and this is just a fairy's tale book in it. And Nurmagomedov gets mauled by an All-American Bryce Mitchell in Abu Dhabi. That's a fairy tale story. Send him 2 to 3 years to Arkansas and forget. Bryce Mitchell dominates Said Nurmagomedov with the wrestling, and Said's talented in the bantamweight division. He really is. He's got really crafty striking, and he has got good submissions, but I feel like he just lacks a few things. He lacks the stamina. He lacks the he lacks the stamina. He kind of lacks the wrestling, and he kind of lacks that extra layer that most Dagestani fighters do. He obviously isn't from Khabib's crew, and he just lacks something. Whenever it gets, a bit scrappy for Said, that's kind of where he struggles, and that's why he's never been able to hit the top 15. But yeah, great win for Bryce Mitchell. Moves down to the bantamweight division, enemy territory, coming off a bad loss. Out-wrestles and mauls Nurmagomedov in front of the Abu Dhabi crowd, and he's probably going to get someone in the top 15 of the bantamweight division next for Bryce Mitchell, and looks pretty adjusted to this division. He didn't look off a beat. He didn't look any worse than he did in the featherweight division. I think he's probably going to have more success in this division as well, because he's naturally got that bigger frame compared to a lot of these bantamweights. So good win for Bryce Mitchell. Great win for Bryce Mitchell. Give him someone in the top 15. And yeah, for Said Nurmagomedov, he was off a beat. He got out-wrestled. Good win for Bryce Mitchell. Send side Nurmagomedov 2 to 3 years to Arkansas and forget the All-American Malta Dagestani. Then we had Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. My theory on Bogdan Guskov seems to be getting a bit outdated by the day, as he starches Nikita Krylov in the first round, lands a massive fuck-off overhand right on Nikita Krylov, drops him, and then goes for the ground and pound finish after damaging him badly with ground and pound. I don't know how I feel about Bogdan Guskov, man, because I've always said, and I said this in the prediction video, that this fight's going to go two ways. He's going to get outclassed over 15 minutes, or he's going to land a massive shot and sleep Nikita Krylov, and obviously he slept him. But I don't know if I'm bought on the hype just yet, because don't get me wrong, he's undoubtedly one of the most powerful up-and-comers in this division. He's not maybe the best from a skills perspective, but he obviously carries that KO ability. But I don't look at this guy the same way I'm looking at guys like Zhang Mingyang and Azamat Mirzakhanov. He obviously hits very hard. I just feel like, I don't know, it's hard. I feel like he is kind of a bit of a power merchant, but it's hard to deny him after he just starched Nikita Krylov. But then you can also say that Nikita Krylov got knocked out early this year. So it's been a bit of a bad couple of years for Nikita Krylov, who's on a 3-fight winning streak and now has been slept twice, pretty brutally in the first round by Guskov and Reyes. But yeah, Guskov lands a nasty shot on Nikita Krylov and slumps him out cold despite being 33. That's probably going to be it for Nikita Krylov. He's only 33 for the light heavyweight division. And obviously we saw Glover become a champion at 40 years old or whatever it was, 41 years old, but you know, he's on a 2-fight losing streak by KO. He hasn't won a fight since 2023, or was it 2022? It's been a few years since he's won a fight, so I don't know how I feel about Nikita Krylov now. He's obviously not in the best form of his career, but for Bogdan Guskov, I say you give him somebody like Jan Blachowicz next. You know, again, I don't want to keep shitting on the guy. I feel like I always hate on Bogdan Guskov. I've got to give him his credit, you know. All finishes in the UFC, high KO percentage, slept Nikita Krylov. It's going to be a step up for Bogdan Guskov, man, because I guess he is getting through these guys. So good win for Guskov. Still a bit pissed, but he's either going to be Nikita Krylov outclassing him or Guskov starching him, and he happened to starch Nikita Krylov, and he gets the job done. Then we had Almabayev versus Jose Ochoa. Again, I probably shouldn't have gone with Ochoa to win this fight, but Almabayev completely out-wrestles Jose Ochoa across 15 minutes. Ochoa had his moments, but Almabayev was dominant. Didn't really do any damage in the fight, but gets the job done by decision as he out-wrestles him. Yeah, Almabayev must be like a nightmare to fight. I was watching this, and obviously the different styles and everything, but he's kind of reminds me of like a mini Merab. He's just a relentless wrestling pace the whole fight. Doesn't really have the best finishing ability. He's never going to finish a fight, never going to have a highlight reel, and never going to be marketable in any way, shape, or form. But he's kind of just like a relentless wrestler across 15 minutes, always shooting takedowns, always in your face, always looking to get a better position. Eventually he might let you back up, but then he's just going to shoot another takedown or land a little shot on the feet and then go shoot another takedown. He must be relentless to face. He's Almabayev as he gets another one, and he's definitely one of the better wrestlers in this division. You know, obviously got guys like Pantoja and Amir Albazi and Tyra and those type of guys, but Almabayev is probably one of the better pure wrestlers in this division. Like I said, he is kind of like a Merab, heavy relentless wrestler across, you know, 15 minutes. Doesn't really have the best finishing ability or the best striking, but he can kind of be carried through his wrestling, and he gets the job done over Jose Ochoa. Ochoa had his moments though. He was definitely doing the better on the feet. He was definitely the more dangerous guy on the feet, and he was escaping a lot of positions, and he had really good reversals, like when he was shaking Almabayev off his back and, you know, just getting back up to his feet. And this was a huge step up. You know, to go from Cody Durden to Almabayev is a big step up for Ochoa, and I still think he's got a lot of potential, man. If he just improves his wrestling and obviously gets to that top 15 level, I think Ochoa's got a lot of potential, and he is definitely one of the most dangerous dudes. But good win for Almabayev. Wasted a call-out. Called out Joshua Van. Yeah, nice one, mate. Like they're going to do you and Joshua Van after Van just secured himself a title shot against Pantoja. Bit of a waste of a call-out, but gets the job done over Ochoa. Doesn't really do any damage in the fight, but he controlled him across 15 minutes. And like I said, he is definitely one of the more relentless fighters in this division. It was a nice little back and forth fight, is what it is. Almabayev gets the job done. And then we had Shara Magomedov versus Marc-Andre Barriault, which might just win fight of the night. As, yeah, Marc-Andre Barriault had his moments, but Shara Magomedov looked in his ultimate form, at least for 2 of these rounds, just straight picking apart Marc-Andre Barriault, slashing him up with the elbows. But then Marc-Andre Barriault, I think it was in the second round, broke his nose with this massive shot. And this fucking image of Shara putting Magomedov terrifies me. I saw this on Twitter, I had to put it in the video. Looks terrifying. How is he the same species as me? Anyway, absolute war between the two of them. Shara Magomedov was definitely controlling the fight, picking apart with the leg kicks and the body kicks against Marc-Andre Barriault, was definitely doing the better with the the striking, light on his feet. Just typical Shara Magomedov against Marc-Andre Barriault. Barriault did have his moments, and I said in the prediction video, it's going to be tough for Shara Magomedov because Marc-Andre Barriault just really good at like getting people in the clinch and roughing people up in the clinch, and we saw that in the first round, and obviously broke his nose with that massive overhand right that landed on Shara Magomedov and nearly wobbled him a few times as well. So we made it tough as I expected, but yeah, Shara completely picked him apart for 2 rounds. He looked amazing in this fight, especially after he got that nose broken. You know, he obviously backed up against the cage, got straight back to the center, and just started unloading on Marc-Andre Barriault. If that last round would have gone an extra 30 seconds to a minute, he probably would have got the finish as well, because he wobbled Marc-Andre Barriault, had him wobbling all over the place, and eventually went for the finish. I still don't know how the ceiling is for Shara Magomedov. He says he's going to be a future champion. His grappling's still fairly untested. He was able to defend the takedowns against Marc-Andre Barriault, but it's not like Barriault's an amazing wrestler. And obviously, he did just get outclassed by MVP, so I definitely think he can hit the top 15 of the middleweight division. Like, you put him against Marvin Vettori, he's maybe not starching, but you know, he's picking apart like a Marvin Vettori, for example. So if that's the next fight you do, fair play. But yeah, outclasses Marc-Andre Barriault, looked great doing it. Potential fight of the night because, again, Shara was in control the entire fight. Barriault had the moments, but yeah, solid fight, solid scrap, and good for Shara Magomedov. Then we had Petr No Mercy Yan doing Petr No Mercy Yan things, and as expected, completely outclasses Marcus Mcghee. Marcus Mcghee had some success early on, but once Petr Yan had downloaded the information, got in the rhythm, he just started teeing off on Marcus Mcghee. You know, teeing off for the combinations, implement the wrestling a few times, had a really nice trip in the third round, and he's now on a 3-fight winning streak, and he's probably secured himself a title fight in the bantamweight division against the winner of Merab and Corey Sandhagen. Yeah, Yanni's just so skilled. He probably is like pound for pound top 5. I'm not saying he should be pound for pound top 5, but if we're talking just from a pure skills perspective, he's definitely one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC right now. He's just calculated. He takes his time. He tees off on the feet, and he has such an underrated wrestling base as well. Just teeing off on the feet on Marcus Mcghee, throwing punches at the exact perfect times, and implement the wrestling too. He's one of the better wrestlers in this division. Is Petr Yan. People underrate his wrestling because obviously he lost to Merab and he's lost to some wrestlers before like Sterling, but he out-wrestled O'Malley, he out-wrestled Song Yudong, he out-wrestled Figgy, he out-wrestled Marcus Mcghee. He is one of the better wrestlers in this division, and yeah, he just showed levels to Marcus Mcghee. Petr Yan's going to a completely different level to a lot of these guys, and Marcus Mcghee, fair play to him, made it competitive as well, especially in that first round. I'd say he probably won the first round, but it just wasn't enough. He wasn't able to deal with the wrestling, he wasn't able to deal with the boxing, and Petr Yan, he might be the best boxer in the UFC. I know this debate comes up a lot, and people like to say it's Ilia Topuria, because Petr Yan, he's not going to be one of these highlight reel guys. He's not a KO puncher. He's Petr Yan. You're not going to see him go out there and starch somebody, but from just a pure boxing skills technical perspective, he might be one of the most technical boxers in this division. Perfect defense, tees off at the perfect time, lands the combinations at the right time as well. So even though Topuria might be more of a KO puncher and better at finding the button, there's something about Petr Yan and how he gets his hands going that's just so good to see. And another great win for Yan. He's now on a 3-fight winning streak in the bantamweight division. It's got to be him for the belt next. You know, he's got to be him versus the winner of Merab and Sandhagen, because who else do you have? I know you've got Umar Magomedov versus Mario Batista, but I think that's all the way in November as well. So Yan, give him a title shot in his next fight against Sandhagen versus Merab. And for Marcus Mcghee, I mean, he still had his moments, but we're talking about Petr Yan. This ain't Jonathan Martinez, mate. It's a completely different ballgame. So, good win for Petr Yan. Back in the winning column, getting a title fight. And I wouldn't mind seeing Petr Yan make an appearance on the top 15 of the pound-for-pound list, because I think Sarukian's ranked. Would you say that Sarukian's higher than Petr Yan in the pound-for-pound list? Like, he's got a good win over Charles Oliveira. He's got a good win over Beneil Dariush. He's ranked number 2 in the division. But Petr Yan, I think he's ranked number 2 or 3 in his division as well. He's a former champion. He's only really lost to the best of his division. I'd say Petr Yan probably deserves to make an appearance in the top 15 of the pound-for-pound list. But either way, good win for Yan. Styles on Marcus Mcghee, and classic Petr Yan performance. Looks good doing it. And then the main event, Robert Whittaker versus Reiner Derrida. A really sloppy and weird fight where Reiner Derrida gets the decision win. Yeah, this is a weird one. They both looked exhausted the entire fight. Whittaker looked really good early on. He was definitely the better fighter on the feet. Blitzed in and out and was tagging Reiner Derrida. And after the second round, they were kind of just exhausted. It was Reiner Derrida winning the grappling exchanges. Some people saying it was a robbery. I didn't think it was a robbery. I picked Robert to win, and I wanted Robert to win. And I'll talk about this in a second. But I thought Reiner Derrida definitely did enough to win the fight, at least by decision. But yeah, this is a very messy and sloppy fight. I was expecting it to be a bit more technical on Robert Whittaker's end, to be fair. I obviously expected Reiner Derrida to be, being a bit goofy and Tom and Jerry all over the place, but Robert Whittaker himself, he's usually quite a sharp guy. But after the second round, both of these guys were exhausted, and Whittaker looked sharp early on, but he couldn't really get anything going, and I don't want to say it was a disappointing main event because I don't really know what I expected, but I just feel bad for Whittaker, man. I don't not feel bad for him in the sense that he got robbed, but that's got to be it for his career. And I'm not saying he needs to retire, but he looked done. You know, he's on a 2-fight losing streak now, with one of them being a brutal finish. He's probably going to be fighting outside the top 15 in his next fight, or very, very low in the rankings. And he's at that stage in his career where he's obviously never going to win a belt again. He's never even going to fight for a belt again. I say you get him on Perth later on. Oh, it's a fight night, they'll win it, so he's not going to fight on a fight night. I don't know. Maybe get him on a... Because they'll go to Australia early next year. Maybe put Robert Whittaker on an Australian pay-per-view early next year for his retirement fight. Because he's definitely on his way out. After that performance, he definitely looks like he's on his way out. Because I think if you put the Robert Whittaker that fought Adesanya for the rematch in there with Reiner, I think he gets Reiner out of there. But anyway, for Reiner, he gets by. He looked good doing it. You know, he was landing those knees in the clinch. Now, I'll say this about Reiner. He's definitely one of the better clinch fighters in the UFC. When he gets you in the clinch, he roughs you up with the knees, he roughs you up with the elbows, and he's definitely one of the best clinch grapplers in the UFC, but he ain't winning no belt. This is what I mean about DDP and Chimaev. They're beating whoever wins that fight between DDP and Chimaev. Nobody else is beating them. Reiner ain't beating DDP unless he manages to out-goof the goofball. He ain't beating Chimaev. He ain't even getting the next title fight. Give him Strickland in like a pay-per-view co-main event, but he gets by, he beats Whittaker. I thought he deserved to win, and fair play for Reiner. It was a big step up in competition, he passes through, but yeah, it was a bit of a sloppy fight, but it is what it is, and I feel bad for Whittaker, man, because that has to be like, that's the turning point of his career. I mean, he was already outside of the title equation after that loss to Chimaev, but I think after that performance, it's kind of like, okay, Whittaker, you've probably got a fight or two left. You need to be away from the title picture now, and that this is kind of like where Whittaker now leaves the top 5. And I mean, what's his ranking going to be? Like number 7 or 8 or some shit by Tuesday. But good win for Derrida. Get him in a number 1 contender fight. Don't give him the next title fight because we've got what's his name? What's it called? Kyle Brallo versus Imavov in August, which should be the number 1 contender fight. And then maybe you do Derrida versus Strickland. But yeah, sloppy fight, bit back and forth. It wasn't an awful fight. I'm not calling it boring, but apart from Whittaker dropping Derrida in the second round, there wasn't really any major highlights from the fight, but Derrida gets the job done. New contender at middleweight, which I guess is what we need, and good win for Derrida. But those are my thoughts on UFC Abu Dhabi. Let me know your thoughts on this card from top to bottom if you agree, disagree, and yeah, just let me know your thoughts on this card. Thank you for watching.